Hey everyone, this is Rod at ListenLoop, and today we're going to be discussing an issue and a question that's near and dear ListenLoop's heart, which is, what is the difference between retargeting and account-based advertising? How are they different? How are they similar? Let's get into some of the details. So first, let's describe what each of these different techniques refer to. The first is retargeting. I'll abbreviate that as RT. And the second one is net new advertising, let's call it, net new traffic. I'll call that NNT. So the difference between these two is a neatly divided line that determines whether you fall within retargeting or NNT. And that is cookies. The cookie determines which paradigm you're operating in. Under retargeting, you're dealing with a first-party cookie. What does that mean? It means that a visitor, John Smith, has to come to your website. Let's say you are IBM.com selling very sophisticated servers at IBM.com. Now, John Smith has to come to your website and has to receive a cookie from this website that segments John into a specific audience about whether or not they want to be retargeted. Now, that'd be decided, of course, by the B2B marketer over at IBM. And on that basis, you can then deliver ads that follow John as they browse the web, typically very cost effectively. Now, here's the challenge with that approach. You're always limited by the amount of traffic going into your website. For most B2B marketers, that volume of traffic tends to be on the low side, maybe 30,000 to on the high end, maybe 200,000 monthly unique visitors. And retargeting isn't always the way to push enough kind of traffic and lead gen through that channel. It is very cost effective, and at least you know you're getting somebody who's already interested in your solution. That's great. So what can we do about this challenge? We'll solve that using a net new traffic approach. But before I go there, I want to touch on one more challenge with a retargeting based approach. If you are taking a true account-based marketing approach, you might want to reach out to companies who have never engaged with your brand at all. And so that presents a potential challenge, because if you have people over here from one of your target companies and they haven't been to your site, then you're not going to be able to retarget them. And that's a problem. So now, what is the difference between that and NNT? NNT, if this is first party, NNT uses third-party cookies. These are cookies that have been collected by different data providers and license that data for sale by vendors like ListenLoop on your behalf. So now with third-party data cookies, we can get information about job titles, we can get information about industry and company segments, and we can get information about geolocation when the ad is served. Now what we do is we triangulate and find this little tiny area of overlap that represents your target company with a specific job title and advertise to that account. Okay. So that's a lot of technical jargon to basically say that retargeting is a first-party cookie, net new targeting relies on third-party cookies. Let's talk about the actual pros and cons and benefits and what that means for you. Under a third-party NNT approach, you are then actually able to target specific accounts that may have never been to your website to begin with. Now remember, that is a group of people that under the retargeting paradigm may not be reachable at all. So that's a really important distinction between the two. Now, if there's a pro, there should be a con. So what's the downside of using an NNT approach? Well, the downside is that with retargeting, you can get down to an individual level and hit ads that might speak to them specifically based on their job title, their industry, and any other information you might have about them in your CRM or marketing automation system. Now, the flip side of that is, of course, on net new targeting, you're really focusing on this overlapped area, which could represent one person, could represent multiple people. For instance, let's say we selected an audience of marketers at software companies in a specific geolocation. Now this might be one person if this location and these individual factors are sufficiently tight. It might represent multiple people. Now, the positive side of this is you get to target and deliver your impressions to a group of folks who are potentially your buyers. But of course, the downside, as I mentioned, is you may not be getting that true one-to-one personalization or directed ad as you would in retargeting. Okay, now I'm going to kind of throw you a curveball here and show you a different method. This is called CRM retargeting. What's that about? You may have heard of this. This is a bit of a mix between these two different paradigms. It tries to combine the first party cookie kind of retargeting concepts, but also it allows you to do some targeting of people who haven't been to your website to begin with. So that can be pretty powerful. Let's dive into that. So CRM retargeting usually takes a list of contacts, maybe a CSV file or some kind of connection to your Salesforce, and it provides email addresses. Let's call it john@city.com. Then typically it'll run through what's called a hashing function that'll turn this email into a cryptographically secure set of characters. It'll look like gobbledygook to us, Z1X, blah, 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 blah. And this is then matched against another table provided by people like Facebook, LinkedIn, LiveRamp. Now, if you provided this john@city email address and their data also matches the same email address without providing the actual email, they're able to say, yes, we have a cookie on that individual and we can deliver an ad on them. And so you might get a list that says, hey, your list of people, we're able to match on 30% of the emails that you provided. So herein lies the rub. Although it is great that you have first-party matches on cookies that have already been placed on john@city.com and whoever else, the challenge often is that the match rates can be low in a B2B environment. In a B2C, business-to-consumer environment, this approach works fantastic. Why? Because everyone who's browsing the web often uses their personal email address for transactions like e-commerce checkouts and signing into Facebook, and you probably even sign into LinkedIn with your personal email address. So that's where the match rates can be really great. B2C, I've heard of 90+% match rates. I've heard as high as 97%, right? This is like where Target uploads a list of their database into one of these providers and gets excellent match rates. For B2B, we do face that challenge. Lower match rates can be very powerful. If your list is big enough, I definitely recommend you give this a shot. Use something like the Facebook, create an audience, LinkedIn, create an audience. If you want to get a specific license to LiveRamp, do some data onboarding and push it into a DSP, push it into ListenLoop, and you can take this approach as well. So this has been a great recap of the different methods to deliver ads to try to specific prospect or account. You can see some of the relative pros and cons for each. Now, fortunately, ListenLoop's got you covered. ListenLoop offers both a net new traffic solution to go after unengaged accounts in addition to a retargeting solution to get after prospects who've already been to your website. So either way, you can't lose. If you have any questions, leave a comment below or email me, rod@listenloop.com. I love reading and replying to all the emails that come in. Until the next time, talk to you soon.